Hi and welcome to Forbes India Beyond the Boardroom. This is Ushnota Paul, your host. This is a show where we have esteemed guests from all kind of fields, from successful businesses to films to sports, but we don't talk about their profession. We talk beyond that. How are they as people when they're not negotiating a multi-crore deal inside the boardroom or when the camera is off? We find out about their lives beyond that. Before we start the episode today, I just want to say that it's a very special episode for me personally because this is the first episode I'm shooting after my son was born. He's going to turn a month in the next 4 days or so. At the point that I'm shooting it, this is the first episode I'm shooting post-pregnancy. So this is actually a very special episode for me. The guest we have with us today, let me tell you a little about him. I think he has truly been all over India. He was born in Gaya, Bihar, brought up in Assam, did his BTech in mechanical engineering from IIT Delhi, then an MBA from ISB Hyderabad, and now he lives in Amchi, Mumbai with his family. He eventually co-founded his company in 2015. In his career, he has served as a board member of iNurture and has also worked at the Tata Strategic Group, advising Tata strategic direction. We have with us today the co-founder and managing director of the online education venture upGrad, Mr. Mayank Kumar. What I've heard is that you're extremely introvert as a person, so thank you for coming on my show and talking to us.
No, thank you. I think first of all, June, thanks a lot for the introduction. I don't think that I've ever been introduced in this manner earlier, which means that you have done a lot of homework before sort of coming and talking. But thanks a lot, and it's a pleasure to be on the show.
Mayank, you also have a 6-year-old. His name is Kabir. So we are both parents. Tell us something about Kabir. Like, how has fatherhood probably changed you as a person?
No, a lot. I think the interesting fact is Kabir was born in 2014. We were in Delhi at that point in time, so we just moved from Bombay to Delhi for about a year's period. And that's the time, June, the thought process of upGrad came into my mind that, look, this is something I want to do. So in that context, upGrad and Kabir are the two similar aged kids or babies that you want to call it that one has sort of inherited or at least given birth to. But the interesting fun is that when he was born, and this is an important point, that everyone around me was saying that, look, now that you just had a kid, it's not the best time for you to start upGrad. And they said, no, now you have family, you have responsibility, just sort of let's focus and get things done. Why you want to leave your job and start something of your own?
Yeah.
And I tell now Kabir this very often that, look, the two of you are same age, both you and upGrad. But I was told very clearly by someone that, look, there's no right time to start something. Every time is a good time to start off your own venture. Absolutely. So I think right after Kabir being born, upGrad idea came into existence. We started the venture alongside my other co-founders. So it's been a good, fun journey. I can see both of them maturing in similar ways, and both of them becoming equally more difficult to handle as they start sort of growing older in the process.
Like I mentioned in your intro, actually, and you have actually been all over India. I think that's the first thing that struck me when I was kind of researching, reading up more about you. Do you think this, like, actually being in so many places in India, be it while growing up, studying, later working, this is like actually this multicultural thing has like shaped you up as a person in some way, living in so many places?
No, it does. Actually, I think it's a thing that people don't appreciate much, and I'm glad that you caught that on, because I mean, I was born in Bihar, and then my entire childhood I was in Assam, and when I lived, there were about 1,000 families, and the good part was that the 1,000 families were from all over India who had come and worked in an oil refinery. I think the kind of exposure that I got at that point in time was immense, with people from all around.
Right.
But here's the interesting bit. Post doing my schooling from Assam, I joined IIT Delhi, but till about 8th, 9th or 10th in that standard, we had no clue that something like this exists. because while you're in a smaller city, it does sort of at least narrows your mindset, saying, okay, this is what the world is, and these are the set of opportunities that you have. But when you move to a bigger city, you start realizing that, look, I mean, what you were seeing earlier was a very small part. So I think to that specific point, while being in multiple cities gives you that multicultural environment, being in a small town or a small village and a big city along with the same time, I think it gives you a very different, unique perspective that, look, this is where majority of the India lives, which is smaller cities, smaller towns. But when you come to a larger city and larger town, the confidence that you built up because of that transition is immense. That helps you a lot. So I do see this trend a lot in at upGrad, where a lot of our learners come from small towns and have settled in larger cities, and they have a very different, unique point of view about life, about career, about things in general. That, look, if I was not from a tier A city, I have now cracked into it. So I think that fact of being in multiple cities, small cities, big cities, it does give you a very unique perspective. And I think at the end of the day, as an individual, you carry what you want to carry towards and build your perspective about world in that process.
Also, Mayank, one very interesting thing that I heard about you is that you have this big passion for running in marathons. You've done 5 half marathons and completed a half marathon in under 2 hours. When and how did this interest begin?
No, it was actually in Bombay when the interest came in. I mean, I used to run in my college, but it was just like as a hobby. But I think the interest came up when I settled down in Bombay. I think it was in 2006 or 2007 when the first Mumbai Marathon happened. And I enrolled myself in the 7 kilometers, which was a dream run at that point in time. We finished off the dream run, and it was like, okay, chalo, this is done. This is very quick, and it just happened. And then the next year, I just landed up for a half marathon. And I think one of the things that I realized when running these marathons is that it's a very interesting meditative experience for me. So for me, it's a therapeutic thing more than running a marathon. It just helps me calm down. It helps me think through multiple things. And even today, if I'm going out for an evening run or a morning run, I do believe that my days become far more productive with that. And I hope that I can continue doing this for a very long time without too much of injuries and without too much of an issue coming in with running in these kind of roads in Bombay at the end of the day.
So do you remember any of those aha moments that you had while running? Did you get one really awesome idea that you implemented in business or something while running?
No, I think you do get a lot of ideas. I think some innovative ones or the interesting tidbits of running in Bombay, at least in Mumbai Marathon, is that you do come across multiple personalities when you're running. So I think the first thing that I remember was Mr. Anil Ambani running the marathon. And while you're running marathon, it's very difficult to see that when he's running past you, everyone is stopping and saying Jai Shri Krishna to him. And while you're running marathon, that kind of conversation happening is a different experience altogether. The second one is that when you're coming close towards the closure of the marathon, and then you feel like now that you will anyways end up finishing really well, and you're running very well and fast, and no one is sort of overtaking you, and then suddenly a middle-aged person comes in and crosses you, which is Milind Soman, and he crosses the full marathon and comes up with so much energy towards the end also. Then you start feeling, look, I mean, I think there's a big difference, but you're still not having the same level of energy and sort of stamina left to run the marathon.
For you, traveling, I think, means exploring various food options, right? Where in the world do you say you have found the best cuisine?
Oh, I mean, a lot of places. I think London definitely falls as one of the places where you get very nice, very good cuisine. Let me also first talk about in India at least. I'm a hardcore, I mean, so far at least for the last 10, 12, 15 years I've been in Mumbai, so I really enjoy Mumbai food, but it's difficult to beat Delhi. Delhi is a controversial statement, but Bombay food is, I mean, it's tough to compare Delhi foods. I really love and enjoy food in Delhi. Among the smaller towns, smaller cities, I think Indore has that sort of unique touch, which is very difficult for a lot of cities to match, which the which is the night sort of eating out place that they open up till midnight. Phenomenal place. But I think for me, couple of experiences that have been unique and phenomenal is this one place which, I think I still remember that place. We traveled to Tokyo for a meal, and there was a small sort of tucked around. I would say every place in Tokyo is booked 3 months, 6 months in advance. So it's difficult to find a seat in a nice restaurant when you don't plan in advance. But there's one restaurant which opens up at 4 o'clock and it shuts at 11 o'clock. 4 o'clock in the morning and shuts at 11 o'clock in the morning. So you can come and have one meal between 4 to 11.
You're talking about that sushi place.
Correct, the sushi place, correct, yeah. So it's Dai Sushi. So you need to queue up at 4 o'clock because 3:50 they open up, 10 minutes, they sort of wait for it. So I decided, like a typical Indian tourist, that look, you don't need to go at 4 o'clock, you can go at 5 o'clock, 6 o'clock. So I landed up at 6 o'clock or 6:30. So it took me 4 hours in the queue waiting from morning 6:30 to about 10:30 odd. I was the last person in for the last meal, had the last meal there and came back. So it was a 7-hour wait come travel time for that one meal. But on that one June, I can definitely tell you that was one of the best meals that I've ever had.
Do you have any crazy travel story from your vacations? Like any crazy anecdote or funny incident that happened?
I mean, it was in Guangzhou. So we were in China for one of the meetings, and we finished the meeting, and the meeting got extended for a while for a certain period of time, and then we had to catch a flight back to Shanghai, and we had to sort of take the flight, or I think Guangzhou to Beijing or something we had to head out to. And if you miss the flight, we missed the connecting flight back to India.
Oh.
Or something of that sort was the plan. And the meeting got extended, and I and my colleague ran as nice people. We said, why don't you guys take the cab first and we'll follow you. So we took the last cab in. So the last cab did not come. And then we had to go to the road and catch to catch the cab to catch up the flight. Interestingly, we just did not know what an airport is called in Mandarin. So we just could not explain. And we were in the middle of the road and all the cabs were going. The only thing that the two of us were doing was making up a plain sign and just trying to hail a cab in the middle of the in Guangzhou, saying that please take us to the airport, because none of them can understand what we're trying to sort of achieve. But it was a good fun experience in China without knowing a word of Mandarin.
Mayank, since you are from IIT Delhi, tell us something about your engineering days. What are some of the fondest memories you have from that time in IIT?
I think there are a lot of fond memories, so I don't think we can finish it off, but I'll tell you 2 points which was interesting for me. As I said, I grew up in Assam. So for me, going to Delhi was a small city, big town or big city experience. So when you landed there, you just realized exactly what you said, June, that everyone around you were so much smarter than you are. And you just feel, and I think one of the interesting that it brings to you is a very strong sense of humility and being humble at the time. That look, I mean, there are much smarter people that exist out there that you're surrounded with. But I think one of my first experiences, there are multiple fond memories. I think we made some great friends, everything keeping aside. I think this was the first class in one of the subject areas which you're doing, and there's a concept called tutorials. So you do a lecture and then you go for tutorials where in a group of 7, 8, 10 people, the professor teaches you slightly more in a personalized manner. So I landed up in a tutorial and I was doing something, and the professor gave a problem statement on the board and we were all sort of trying to solve for it. And that's the time it dawned on me that I made a mistake. I think I should have never joined this institution.
Oh my God.
There's no way that I'm going to pass this examination. This is complete failure. Things are going to be much tougher. And I was just very disappointed in that entire conversation, that I felt completely down and out. After the class got over, I looked around because everyone was very excitedly solving for the problem and doing something and presenting and talking. And I talked to everyone else saying that, guys, like, seriously, did you guys get what he was teaching? He said, we did not get a jack of what he was talking about. And then I felt a sense of confidence that, look, I mean, everyone is in the same boat. We may all sort of come and look more confident than others. And that was my biggest learning of confidence that I spoke to you about, that look, everyone is equally smart as you are. You just have different circumstances to take advantage of what you have. Don't get intimidated by what others are thinking. Just do what you're doing and just continue doing well in what you're doing at that point in time.
And we always hear about these crazy engineering day hostel stories, right? Where people learn jugaad, and these are one of the best memories of life. So give us a glimpse, a little bit of like some fun story from IIT hostel days.
First of all, when you sort of land up in a hostel, Delhi is a hot place. I mean, there are only two weathers: it's hot and winter. So
Very cold.
when
Yeah.
it gets cold, it gets very cold. When it gets hot, it's very hot. So I think our when it used to get very hot, we did not have the fancy ACs or the coolers or any of those sort. The best way of living was you sort of your bed is there and you just put water on the floor and let the water evaporate. It used to make it hotter, but you used to feel that it is making it cooler. But I don't know why we used to feel that it used to make it cooler. But you just put in water on the ground floor and sleep on the bed and take advantage of that. So that was just one jugaad way of sort of managing the Delhi heat. We used to also get our hostels became slightly more smarter and slightly more advanced. So we started getting washing machines. It was a big deal at that point in time that, look, you have washing machine and you can wash your clothes on the washing machine. Very soon, the washing machine started losing the drainage system. So you would wash your clothes, but the water will not get drained out. So literally our use case of washing machine was take the washing machine, dump out the water, put it back in, fill it up with water, and then again use it. Not realizing again that when you're washing the clothes with the dirty water swirling around, it does not help clean the clothes. So I think it was all fine in the spirit of using the washing machine, that we were able to use the washing machine and cut out on the manual labor of washing your clothes.
Is it safe to assume that you were like the good kid in school, like very studious?
No, I mean, I was horrible when I was for the first 9, 10th, till about 10th. I used to be among the top 15, top 20. I think something changed in 10th or 11th it was perhaps the drive to making it happen. But on the IIT one I'm glad that you mentioned it now. Look, I owe a lot to what education I got there, and I think it's been phenomenal. But I think specifically in our country, there is a very strong sort of caste system that education has built around itself. And that's where when you talk to a lot of IITians, they will like, okay, now I'm from a very good caste, so please talk to me in a nice manner. I think that's one thing that I'm hoping that with upGrad we can break and we can get out of in this entire journey. Because look, I mean, when you look at the marriage thing on whatever weekend, when you read the marriage sort of editorials, you have height, skin color, caste and education. So caste and education comes very close to each other. So you will always have IIT IIM kid wants a IIT IIM spouse, and that's something that always gets in. But as I said, that there are two ways in which some good institution can take you in. I mean, one is that they will make you extremely proud of what you have done, and therefore you become a bit obnoxious. Or the other way of taking you in is that now that you have been amongst the best people, you become extremely humble, and then you build and live your life with that humility. So there are both these options that one gets in. To your specific question, yes, after 10th, 11th, things changed. But coming out of it, I've never let where you went to get onto your head. Because otherwise it gets too difficult for you to live properly you don't realize that you are actually on the Mother Earth and not on some other planet altogether.
And which sports do you like watching?
Cricket, hands down, any day.
Okay,
I'm a hardcore cricket fan, so I just cannot live without watching cricket at any point in time. I think this last 6 months have been a great, for a cricket fan, it's a great time for one to enjoy and support Indian cricket.
Since you mentioned you're such a big cricket fan, I think I need to ask, 2011 World Cup, do you remember where you were and what you were doing that time?
I was at Banke Day.
What? I did not know this.
This was like I somehow managed to get completely the pavilion, the straight line seats. So one of the best views in the entire tournament. Watched the last 6 getting hit and India winning the cup and taking the cup. And then after that, it was just chaos getting out of Wankhede and getting to any place that we wanted to be, because all restaurants were shut. We just cannot go anywhere, and we wanted to celebrate. So we took a train back to Worli Prabhadevi, Elphinstone at that point in time. Walked to my house, sat down, 3 of our friends, just enjoyed our nice whiskey glass, because I think what we missed out was the entire presentation, because presentations are not the best thing to watch when you are in the stadium. We heard it, we could not understand it. When we came back home and we watched the presentation, that was like a very different experience altogether. But I still remember after Sehwag got out, I did not move out of my seat, like just did not move from my seat. So it was uncomfortable watching the match, but it was worth watching the match with that pain also.
Okay, before we end this show, I think the last thing I'm going to ask you, Mayank, is that, of course, we talked about Kabir at the beginning of the show. How do you balance, work and family, giving time to him as well as managing such a big company?
I'm not the right person for this, but if you ask me, how do I manage what I do at home and what I do, or rather, if I have to rate myself as a father, I think my rating is going to be extremely poor. It is going to be a 1 out of 10 or a 2 out of 10. But I think I have also given up this thing that, look, weekends are sacrosanct. Weekends I need to spend time with him. At least one day in the week I need to spend time with him. My wife has done a very interesting way of driving this thing, that she has said that, look, whatever happens, you have to give him a bath. So at least in the morning, he's completely mine. So then we spend time in the morning. So I guess the entire thought process has been that, look, wherever you can force yourself to spend time with him, you spend time with him. Now he has come back with a new ask of playing badminton in the morning. So we are waking up at 6 a.m. in the morning, playing half an hour to an hour long badminton, then coming back and giving a bath. So it gives me enough 1 to 1.5 hours, potentially every two days, once every 2 days, to spend time with him. But overall, I think while I can say, look, I mean, it's very difficult to manage what you're doing of running the venture and then sort of at family. But I think certain places you have to draw the boundary and then spend that time. But the way at least I've structured my life is that it's close to the office, it's easy to come in, easy to go out, so that if need be, then my son can come in along with me. My wife stays, her offices are also sort of close by, so it becomes like an ecosystem. And then you can spend time properly. But overall, if I have to rate it, it is going to be extremely, extremely low.
Thank you so much, Mayank, for coming in Forbes India Beyond the Boardroom. It was really nice chatting with you.
Thank you. Thanks, Jill. Thanks a lot for having me here.
And for you guys, thank you so much for joining us in this episode. See you again next week in Forbes India Beyond the Boardroom. Thank you.